willingness to be able to receive the reality that the United States of America in particular, North America in general, is indeed Mystery Babylon unequivocally. There has been such a significant delusion that has been put onto the spirit of the Western-centric church. I'm not talking about our radiant brothers and sisters in Nigeria and Iran and China and the underground church in North Korea and all the Horn of Africa and these other places. Like, I've lived the majority of my adult life around the world. I've traveled around the world. I've operated in semi-permissive and non-permissive environments over and over and over again. I've operated in all kinds of different levels, different spheres, different professional capacities, and as a Christian on the front lines of different aspects of our corporate reality, and I can testify to the radiancy of the church everywhere else. But when it comes to the United States of America, there is a unique blindness that goes beyond comprehension. And what most people don't realize is it's not a blindness based out from ignorance, right? We got to make that distinction. People think that the reason why the American church, American Christians, Steve having to beat the drum for 30 plus years and Doug doing what he does and all these other guys like warning, the watchmen on the walls warning, and yet it goes nowhere, is because we assume that it's an ignorance issue. And what most people don't understand, it has nothing to do with ignorance. It has to do with delusions. And a delusional person is completely different than a person who's operating out from ignorance. And the other aspect to know and understand about that is we're not dealing with delusion because the power of the darkness are getting one over on us. That is such a red herring argument that the hyper emotionally predatory Christians want to use all the time. The devil made me do it language. It's delusions because God has sent them. So a lot of times people are trying to war against what God has already put on a person because, as it says in 2 Peter, is that they deliberately forget. Or as 1 Peter, they deliberately forget. It's a willful, deliberate choice of the carnality of the flesh for a love of the world and the things of the world, that the same God who judged the earth with a deluge is coming again to judge it with fire. It is a deliberate, willful choice, just like we say all the time, 2 Thessalonians 2, because they love not the truth, God sends them a strong delusion because they took pleasure in unrighteousness. It's not that they don't know the truth, they just don't love it. Same thing with Romans 1. Knowing God, they neither glorify him nor give him thanks, but they come darkened by the hardening of the hearts, right? So then God gives them over. It's not that they don't know God. They just, knowing God, they won't give him thanks or glorify him. So it's the same thing with the reality of the American churchianity paradigm, with the prophetic fulfillment of that. They will give heed to the seducing doctrines of demons. The way of truth will come into disrepute. They will not tolerate sound doctrine. Why? Because they are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. There is a cosmic usurpation of love. They like God. They like Jesus. They like the idea of not going to hell. But do they love God, and do they have a knowing other God, right? And because they are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, they have the form of godliness, they deny the power thereof. They're always learning. They go from podcast to podcast and broadcast to broadcast and
Yes.
YouTube documentary to YouTube documentary. And they're always learning. It's the most hyper narcissistic, neo-Gnostic paradigm in human history, but they're never able to come to an understanding of the truth. Because the truth is actually the person and the deity of Jesus, the Christ, the soon coming conquering king. That's what they never get to. So here we are saying America's Mystery Babylon. Nah, it's a revived Roman Empire. No. Okay, America's Mystery Babylon. No, it's actually Babylon proper. Iraq is going to rise from the sands of the Arabian desert, and at the Fertile Crescent and the convergence of the Tigris and the Euphrates, there's going to be a new Nebuchadnezzar-based Babylonian empire. Nope, sorry, that's not going on either. Okay, it's going to be the beast system at the end of the age. Sorry, that doesn't fit the bill either. It is America, and America unequivocally. And the reality why most Christians can't even receive that or accept that is because they are lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And Babylon offers them the highest form of pleasure and luxury and comfort and dissipations out of anywhere on the face of the earth. And throughout historicity, when you look at comparative history, throughout the history of humanity. My background, if the listeners don't know, is Sergeant in Marine Corps Infantry. I've got a degree in history. I've operated in federal law enforcement. I'm a paramedic. I'm a tactical EMS. I was a firefighter, tech rescue team, hazmat operations. I've been a missionary overseas, lived overseas for several years at a couple different times, done different archaeological stuff, disaster relief in all kinds of different areas around the world, served our Christian brothers and sisters in Iraq. Like, I don't say this from some armchair quarterback paradigm because I sat with my nose in a book for 30 years and go, aha, I have it figured out. Mystery Babylon is a revived Roman Empire because it talks about 7 hills. That's got to be Rome, right? Like, this is boots on the ground revelation of exactly what America is and what we stand for and what we represent, and our geopolitics and our geostrategies and the drunkenness that we have poured out on the face of the earth, the entirety of the earth. Not as a regional superpower like ancient Babylon. It is Mystery Babylon. It is genotypic and phenotypic of the original Babylon, but it's not the original Babylon. It is the daughter of Babylon. It is an offshoot of that spirit, that ruling principality now in this land. And so when we look at the totality of the circumstances, as we would say in law enforcement, right, the preponderance of the evidence and the totality of the circumstances, it's unequivocal when you get a peek behind the veil of the United States of America from its conceptual inception in the 1600s, from Sir Francis Bacon and Adam Weishaupt all the way through to the founding fathers and what was going on with the 13 colonies and all the Egyptological Babylonian mystery school tenets of deism that was embedded even in our Constitution and all of our iconography of Washington, D.C. Hello, District of Columbia. Does anybody wonder who Columbia is? Does anybody wonder why it's the District of Columbia? The majority of our presidents come from Columbia University, and it's the statue of Columbia, Isis, Ishtar, Ishtarte, Astaroth. Does anybody wonder what's going on with the Capitol building and the Egyptological phallic symbol of Nimrodian worship, right across from it with the reflecting pool as an homage to the arcane gods of old of as above, so below, with that reflecting pool and all this highest level occultism on the face of the earth being born out from our District of Columbia. It's rooted in things that most people can't even know or understand. And then it comes all the way up through the present age, where the fulfillment of the fullness of that cup of iniquity of Mystery Babylon is on display, and still the Christians don't bat an eye at it. The revelations from the Podesta emails to Epstein Island, right, to the spirit cooking with the Clintons and everything else, to what goes on in Hollywood. What is Hollywood? What is the city of angels? The city of what angels? Does anybody ever ask that? Yeah, it is the city of angels. We better ask what angels. And God we trust. Yeah, and what God do we trust? And what God are they saying that they trust? What is the iconography? They're already telling you in what God they trust. And all the revelations of the sex trafficking and horrors. I won't go into the details of the language, but it comes all the way through the fullness of the cup of iniquity, filling to overflow, that it's going to be forced right back into our hand, and we're going to be commanded by the Most High God to drink it to the dregs and leave no drop. Is the fact that we have made the whole world drunk with our immoralities. One, we've polluted the whole world with our pharmakia, our sorceries, and from us lies the slain of all the earth. We have been the hammer in all the earth, and primarily and first and foremost, as we are the singularity of the trafficking of the souls of men. And more so the point, not the souls of men, but the souls of the innocent, of the least of these, of the children. There has never been an empire as wicked as the United States of America when given comparative history. I have a degree in history. I've studied comparative history. Even when you look at it through the lens of high-level occultism, mystery religions, and the theocratic basis with which, whether it's the Sumerians or the Phoenicians or the Babylonians or the Assyrians, the Medo-Persians, I don't care. Pick an empire, and then obviously we're all pretty familiar with the Greco-Roman aspects of their mythos and their high-level religious practices. None of them compare to the United States of America. And all of it is being done in plain sight, and the American populace, and in particular the American Christians, are say nothings and do nothings. And as the Lord spoke over the Israelites in Zephaniah 1 is, woe to the complacent, to you most notable men of the foremost nation who feel secure on your couches. It literally says you're literally so apathetic. You feel secure on your couches and you do not know the woe that has been spoken over you because of your complacency, and complacency kills. So when we look at even our geopolitical and geostrategic mechanisms for foreign policy, what most people don't understand as a component of Mystery Babylon, which began under the Obama administration, is that in order to receive aid from the United States of America, which don't quote me on these numbers, okay, because they shift. I believe there's approximately 197 official nations in the world right now, give or take a few. And of that, over 180 of them receive aid from the United States. They receive yearly aid packages. Most people don't know that under the abomination of desolation, it was a requirement of our foreign policy that in order to continue receiving aid from the U.S., you must implement LBGT, whatever agenda, and abortion. That was we have literally made the whole world drunk with our immoralities for the greed, for the licentiousness with the blood of innocent children. In America, in CONUS alone, we have upwards of 120 million that we can even document of innocent lives that have been slaughtered in America in every major city and even in the highways and byways of the little rural areas for the love of pleasure and for the love of self, and as a form of ritualistic sacrifice. And here we have the blood of the innocent literally going into the drains, going into the fresh water systems, going into the water treatment plants, right? For you to re-drink. And there has been high-level occultists that have been caught by investigative journalists bragging about the fact that in their lesser magic, they have the whole United States of America drinking aspects of the blood of the innocents, and they don't even know it. I think maybe it was Project Veritas. And so when I see these tremors in Oklahoma City, when I see the San Andreas and then up through the Cascadia with Portlandia and everything that's going on there, when I look at what's going on in the central United States, and we even have, the new Madrid fault line and the different rumors and rumblings of what's going on down there, it is my speculation. This is straight Jamie speculation. There's nothing to back it up. But when God says the earth will disclose the blood shed upon it, it is my presupposition that the earth is going to literally vomit, and the crustal plate shifting and displacement is going to erupt all over Mystery Babylon because of the amount of blood that our tributaries and waterways and highways have been forced to soak up, and it is groaning inwardly because it's been subjected to punishment, but not by its own will, longing for the sons of glory to be revealed. And one day it's literally going to vomit the blood that we have forced into it because it's crying out for the justice of God and the judgment of God to come on this land. And that's why I believe we're beginning to see all these tremors in and around these very particular areas in the world. I mean, talk about the wisdom of God to speak the world into existence with the fault lines that he knew thousands of years later he was going to allow them to break open at the appointed time because he knew it would be a place of iniquity. I mean, how's that for the sovereignty of God?